In this video, let's talk about why Zootopia 2 is so much darker than the first movie. Both films deal with serious themes and have plenty of intense moments, but the kind of injustice they focus on is very different. The first movie is mainly about prejudice, fear, and bias. It shows how quickly society can turn against a group of people based on stereotypes and misinformation. Zootopia 2 takes that idea even further by exploring the consequences of discrimination over a much longer period of time. Instead of something that happens over a few weeks or months, we're talking about suffering that lasted for an entire century. The story reveals that the reptiles, who were once a part of Zootopia, spent 100 years being discriminated against and pushed out of the city because of an injustice that was never properly corrected. Generation after generation had to live with the consequences of something that should never have happened in the first place. That alone makes the situation feel much heavier than what we saw in the first film. The two key figures here are Bellwether and Milton Linksley. Bellwether's goal in the first movie was to turn everyone against predators. She framed them as dangerous, made them look like the villains of the story, and wanted a city where prey animals held all the power.
Prey fears predator and you stay in power?
Yeah, pretty much.
It won't work!
Fear always works. And I'll dart every predator in Zootopia to keep it that way.
Her plan was built around division and fear. However, despite the damage she caused, she was ultimately stopped before she could permanently reshape society. Milton is much darker because the damage connected to him stretches across generations. His grandfather, Ebenezer Linksley, played a major role in turning an entire group of animals into outsiders. In some ways, that resembles what Bellwether tried to do with predators, but there is one massive difference: Bellwether failed, while Ebenezer succeeded. The discrimination against reptiles became part of Zootopia's history and lasted for 100 years. What makes this even more tragic is that reptiles were not outsiders to Zootopia originally. They had their own neighborhood, their own place in the city, and the key figure responsible for Zootopia even existing was a reptile. Yet despite all of that, they were gradually pushed to the margins and treated as if they didn't belong. Milton continued this legacy. Whenever he discovered reptiles secretly living in an area, he would find a reason to expand development into that location.
The expansion is going here. Marsh Market will be buried in snow. We'll all get pushed out. Those lynxes will get more land, and there's no way to stop them.
On the surface, he presented these actions as positive improvements for the city, but the real effect was that more reptiles lost their homes and were forced to leave. Time after time, he used expansion as a way to push them farther away and make their lives more difficult. That is what makes this storyline so dark. We're not talking about a short-term act of discrimination. We're talking about families who suffered for generations because of policies designed to exclude them. Parents, children, and grandparents all had to live with the consequences of decisions made long before they were born. At the same time, the Linksleys were living lives of luxury and influence. They weren't just respected citizens, they had so much power that they could even manipulate the mayor and shape the city's future however they wanted. While reptile families were being pushed out of their homes and forced to live in hiding, the family responsible for that suffering continued benefiting from the system they helped create. That contrast makes the injustice even more disturbing. Milton himself is also a much darker villain than he first appears. What makes him so dangerous isn't just what he did to reptiles, but the way he treats everyone around him. Even his own children don't seem to matter to him on a personal level. He doesn't view them as family members he loves and cares about. Instead, he sees them as useful allies who can help him achieve his goals. The moment someone stops being useful, he is willing to cast them aside without hesitation. That level of selfishness and manipulation shows just how twisted he really is. When you put all of these elements together, the 100 years of suffering, the founder being erased from history, the Linksleys profiting from a lie, Milton's ruthless nature, and Judy nearly losing her life, it becomes clear why Zootopia 2 is darker than the first film.